Welcome to Legacy Engineered, the show where smart structure meets lasting success. Join Scott Arden, Chairman and CEO of Controllers Limited, as he sits down with business leaders, top entrepreneurs, and experts to uncover the strategies, stories, and structures that build lasting legacies. And now, here's your host, Scott Arden.
Welcome back to Legacy Engineered, where we don't just talk about building wealth, we talk about building influence, structure, and something that actually lasts. Today's guest is someone who understands the power of visibility and at a completely different level. David Fagan is the former CEO of Guerrilla Marketing, helping scale a brand that's sold tens of millions of books globally. And today, he's the driving force behind Top Talent Agency, where he helps entrepreneurs, authors, and experts become recognized authorities in their space. From media placement to best-selling books to building what he calls celebrity authority, David has worked with people who don't just want success, they want significance. David, welcome to Legacy Engineered.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Scott.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great to have you. So I got to ask you, you've been in the world of marketing, PR, and influence for a long time. What do most people still misunderstand about how influence actually works?
Probably the biggest misunderstanding, and this is really a big mental block, is people feel like when they start to promote themselves or when other people promote themselves, it's all built on ego, right? It's self-promotion, it's, performance, it's vanity. And it really couldn't be further from the truth. If you really want to help somebody, you have to get over what I would call the humility myth. And the humility myth is just kind of this idea of, hey, if I'm good enough and I'm nice enough and, I do enough good in the world, someday I'll be blessed and recognized and, all the good things will happen to me. All I got to do is just kind of keep my head down and just kind of keep getting results. And someday I'll be quote unquote discovered. So between the misunderstanding of ego and also the misunderstanding that is in the humility myth, it really keeps people from understanding or recognizing the need to put themselves out there to serve the world.
Right, right. So is influence something you build or something you position?
It's both. I'll often ask people, would you make more money if you were more influential? Would you make more money if you were more credible? Would you make more money if you had more exposure? That's kind of my ICE acronym. It's been changing a lot of lives and helping people make a lot of impact for decades. And influence is just one key component that goes hand in hand with credibility and exposure, and they kind of all play off of each other. But influence is one of those things that a lot of times comes from what I call the respect effect. That's actually the last book that I wrote. Just came out last December, and we sold over 100,000 copies just in the first 30 days. But the respect effect is built on things like influence. And when you have these achievements and accomplishments, you start to become influential. When you have these achievements and accomplishments, people start to respect you. And that's not just for the entrepreneur, that's also for the employees. A lot of people think of the respect effect or influence in terms of, authority marketing and celebrity branding for someone in the advice business. But even somebody working at a company who wants to climb the corporate ladder, they want to earn the respect of the people above them and around them. And that's how they are going to literally and figuratively be promoted.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes well, perfect.
Yeah.
So at Top Talent, you focus heavily on authority marketing. What does that actually mean in practice?
So in the book, The Respect Effect, and through what we teach at Top Talent Agency, there's a good solid list of about 20 different types of accomplishments and achievements that you can earn that will make you the authority in your industry or will give you somewhat of a celebrity brand. So in a very generic sense, these things include testimonials, celebrity endorsements, being on television, being on the radio, publishing a best-selling book, guest lecturing at universities, winning industry awards, being on stages, having a large following, serving on a board of directors or advisors, and there's just a lot of other really kind of clever, like maybe industry things. For some people, it's like being in the Hall of Fame or being in Mensa or the Guinness Book of World Records. There are certain types of accomplishments and achievements like these that some people might kind of just accidentally stumble upon, where our company sits down with you and says, let's purposefully plan and set out goals so that you're not waiting for them just to hit you upside the head, but you're more purposefully put in a position to accomplish them in timeframes. So we have a lot of relationships with like ABC, NBC morning shows. Just next week, I've got more than 10 people booked on ABC morning shows alone. I have relationships at like the New York Stock Exchange for like Bloomberg TV. So just imagine, how are you positioned when you're being interviewed on these shows? How does it position you that you're at the New York Stock Exchange and being interviewed? Do they do that for people who aren't significant? Would they do that for somebody who isn't an expert? Of course not, right? It positions you as the go-to authority, the resource. Who do they put on stage to guest lecture in a university? Dumb people, unsuccessful people? Of course not, right? These are wildly successful people. So we have these relationships with universities, and we cast people into films and documentaries. It's the optics, it's the positioning, it's that proximity is power. So what does it mean for you to be on stage next to a Lisa Nichols or a John Asseroff or the late Bob Proctor or Grant Cardone? We think about those things at Top Talent Agency, and then we help you accomplish them.
Nice. That's awesome. So why is being good at what you do no longer enough?
Well, simply, I'm not going to repeat the things that I just said, but they all apply. I will say it a little bit different in the sense that everybody's doing it. It's become a very crowded marketplace. I'll give you an example. When I first wrote my first book in 2009 with the late J. Conrad Levinson, the father of guerrilla marketing. I was the former CEO of Guerrilla Marketing. When I got to co-author with him, when that very first book came out, there was probably a couple hundred books that came out that whole month. Fast forward to today, 15, 16 years later, there is more than about 5,000 books every day being uploaded. 5,000 books. So it used to be like, hey, good is good enough. Just get your book out there. Good is no longer good enough. Right. Like the whole idea is to separate yourself from everybody else. So if you're going to do a book, if you're going to do a podcast, if you're going to do a show, a lot of people are doing that. How are you going to make it better? How are you going to do it in a way that nobody else is doing it? At first, it was like, well, just do a book. Well, then it was like, okay, make it a best-selling. Well, now everybody has a best-selling book, right? Well, then it was like, just do a podcast. Well, a lot of people have a podcast, right? So like, you can't just have a podcast. You can't just have a book. Like, what are you doing to get the best guests? What are you doing to separate yourself in every, facet, of the word? Like my last book, why I said to you, we sold over 100,000 copies in 30 days is because I'm quantifying to you how my book is different from a lot of other books out there. And that's our job, is to separate ourselves, to not just be stand out, but to be top of mind, right? And that's what Top Talent does, is help you stand out and be top of mind and separate yourself from a very crowded marketplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that answers my next question. So
okay.
So do you see a book as a product or a positioning tool? I think it's more a positioning tool, right?
Yeah, it's both. A book is so many things. Let's also not underestimate the therapy a book provides you. As somebody who works with people who do a lot of, books, it can be very therapeutic to kind of go back and, relive some of these things. But sure, a book can be a lot of things. But yes, it should be a door opener. It should be a positioning tool. When people work with me, it's a lot more than that. This is one of the books I did for somebody. And this is a true story about a guy who broke out of a maximum security prison, only one of its kind. He ended up being on Great Escapes, that's narrated by Morgan Freeman. And then this book became a movie script and a movie, and now is A-list actors, actresses. It's a Peacock original. You can go on the Peacock app. It's on there now. Now, not everyone's book turns into a film, but another reason why to do a book is it's the launching pad, hopefully, to something bigger. Maybe it's a documentary, maybe it's a film, maybe it's a series. But if done right, there is a way to leverage it to separate yourself from everybody else. So if people say to me, hey, I'm writing a book, and I ask them, okay, what's the purpose of the book? And they say, well, I want to sell 1 million copies. How do I do that, David? Well, you're really asking the wrong question. It's not how do I sell 1 million copies? It's more like how do I make $1 million with the book? Not how do I sell 1 million copies of the book? Or how do I even make $100,000 with the book? That's a better question and a more realistic one. Or how do I change the world with the book? One of the things that I help people focus on, and I think a reason why a lot of people come to us at Top Talent is we really care more about impact than income. And what's interesting, you chase income, doesn't always happen. You chase impact, it's almost hard and almost impossible not to make income. So, we're thinking about how's the book going to make an impact and how is it going to live on in other iterations?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So what are people doing wrong when they're, trying to build a brand, or is it about being famous or being trusted? I think we kind of covered a little bit of that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, you can be famous and not be trusted.
that's true. That is
You
very true.
can be loved and not respected. And one of the things I talk about in my book, The Respect Effect, is in a lot of ways, respect can be more powerful than even love, right? A lot of people can kind of love you, but kind of secretly pity you, they want the best for you. But if they don't respect you, they might choose you. And the more people see you chosen, the more you become the choice. Like, wrap your head around that for a second. The more people see you chosen as the person on the panel, chosen as the person on the stage, chosen as someone in the interview seat, the more people see you be chosen, the more you become the choice, the obvious choice. And so, it's a lot of coming back to that kind of concept of we're not looking to be famous for the sake of being famous. You can be famous for doing something horribly wrong.
Right.
That fame may not lead to respect. We only want the type of name recognition that leads to credibility and respect, right? And that's also what leads to influence, right? So we really are looking more for that over fame, right? And a lot of people misunderstand fame. And, kind of even the old adage, like, all press is good press. Well, there's some truth to that. But all press is good press if you can spin it into a story that leads to respect and trust and credibility.
Right. Yeah, I know that was P.T. Barnum's thing, right? Was, good
Absolutely.
publicity, bad publicity, just spell my name right. But I think it's about being authentic too. People connect with
Absolutely.
authenticity, integrity, honesty. I mean, that's, and really, yeah, just
Yeah.
being authentically you.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And that's kind of one of my favorite definitions for authenticity is when you're really good at being you, right? When you're just really good at being yourself, just being very, matter of fact, and it comes very natural to some people. Other people, it's a little bit of struggle and kind of sometimes there's some blocks they need to get out of their head, or there's some voices they need to quiet or resolve in their head. And then they can speak a little bit more naturally.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
let's talk honestly. There's a lot of experts online right now. How do you
Mhm.
separate real authority from noise?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. It's again a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about in terms of separating yourself. And when you're doing everything everybody's doing, it's hard to expect people to see you differently. So I'm doing books. Not a lot of people are doing books. Everyone's doing books. Now I'm doing books and turning them into films, and I'm, doing them in a different way, right? Um, Everybody's speaking, everyone's doing events. How do we turn those events into broadcasts? TED Talks were big. Now everybody does a TED Talk. I don't have any interest in TED Talks. What I'm saying is once everybody starts zigging, some of us have to zag.
That makes, yep.
We all have to kind of level up. And so one of the things you're seeing a lot more nowadays is films, right? The cost of everything is coming down. I was just a part of the producer's cut of the Think and Grow Rich film, where I was interviewed in the same film as Grant Cardone and Barbara Corcoran and Kevin Harrington. Not very many people can say that, so I'm separating myself. Um, Lisa Nichols, one of the stars of The Secret, she has a very powerful story. Her life could be turned into a movie, but there isn't those offers quite yet. So what's the baby step? I was the executive producer of a one woman, one night Broadway play at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater in New York City. We shot it with 7 cameras. We turned that Broadway play into a film. Now that film is on Apple TV and Prime. Very few people can say that they've done a Broadway play, right? And they've separated themselves. So to go back to your question, how do we kind of decide on kind of who's real? There's a lot of ways to kind of look at the credibility, but I'm looking at the achievements, I'm looking at the accomplishments, and bottom line, I'm looking at the results. When people hit me up in LinkedIn, I'm sure you, Scott, get a lot of people LinkedIn, right? Like, let me help you with this, let me help you with this, let me help you with this. Like, have you ever
All the
considered
time.
this? All the time, right? One of the very first things I say to them, if I'm interested, is I say, great, I want to talk to at least 2 people that can tell me about the experience with you. And I need at least 1 or 2 other case studies that shows how you've done that. And you'd be, well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I'm surprised at how 90% of those people cannot do that. If you came to me and said, David, I'm considering having Top Talent Agent, publicize me or publish me or produce me. And, I want to talk to a few people. I can give you 10, I can give you 20. I can give you videos, I can give you testimonials, I'll put you in a group text 30 seconds later with a handful of people that you could hop on the phone with. So another answer to that question is look to the results, talk to the people, who have they been able to take from zero to hero? I have a lot of famous clients, even some celebrity clients. I had to stop telling those stories because what people heard was, well, I'm not a celebrity, so David can't do this for me. I had to start saying, hey, look at small town, mother of 4, Idaho woman here doing family foot reflexology. And now she's on the red carpet. And now she's speaking on stages to thousands. And now she's in a film. And that is a greater proof. So if you're out there listening, you want to show the touch stories. You want to show the hard cases. You want to show the people that, one of my most powerful testimonials for years, they got so many views, was an Asian woman with broken English. She could barely even talk. And I used to kind of do the impersonation, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. The world's a little bit sensitive now, so I'm not going to do my impersonation of it. But in very broken English, she's just like, David best, David's great. I did this, this, and that. And people love it so much because in their mind, they're going, okay, if David can help her do this, he can help me. Right. So I think that's what we all need to be looking for is where is the social proof? Where are the testimonials? Where are the case studies? Who can I get on the phone with and see how close to zero they started and how far to hero did they go with that person's help?
Love it. Love it. So for someone listening who knows they're capable of more, but they're not being seen at that level yet, what would be the first move they would need to make? Hiring you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Let me answer that question and maybe even make it a little bit better of a question. Dare I say better? You're really good, Scott, but I'm not. I don't throw you off here. Let me answer this question as well. Um, how do people know they're ready for me? And people can really get the most out of what I do? That's really somebody who has proof of concept. And there's three things to proof of concept. One, you have a product or service to sell. Two, you're making money currently selling that product or service. And three, you have enough testimonials and happy clients that are referring you business that it works. If you've got those three things, product or service, making money from it, and happy people giving you testimonials and referring you business, you have proof of concept. You have a working business model. I can't give you a working business model. I can help you with that, and I will help you with that. But where you can go very fast and very far with me is if you come to me and say, David, I'm an expert. I'm good at what I do. I'm already doing it. I'm already making money. Show me to the world. Okay, let's go. Boom, media tour, TV, morning shows, New York Stock Exchange, filming, stages, guest lecturing, books, videos, awards, Lifetime Achievement Award from the White House, right? Honorary doctorate degrees. I helped several people get honorary doctorate degrees. I can help you be knighted in a very real royal order. Think about all those things. How would it position you to have an honorary doctorate? How would it position you to have Lifetime Achievement Awards, for places like the White House? How does that position you? How does that position you? How does that position you? And will people respect you more?
Right. That's awesome. Huh.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to talk more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, cool. So I have to ask, because I ask everyone on this show,
Sure.
since this is Legacy Engineered, what
Yeah.
does legacy look like to you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a horrible person to ask that question. And I'm glad when you told me early on that you never get the same answer, really. So I'm probably going to contribute to that and keep that running, where I'm probably not going to give you the same answer. And the reason is I honestly don't think a lot about legacy. It doesn't really move me. It doesn't really inspire me. I'm okay, and I feel like I am a better individual doing things out of whatever I feel purely inspired or motivated in the moment to do, because it's the right thing to do, the best thing to do, the most impactful thing to do. And I don't really do anything out of someday I want to have a legacy. And so hopefully this contributes to that. I have 8 children, if you can believe that, all with, my wife, my first wife. Um, and I already have 7 grandchildren with 2 more on the way. So I guess when I hear legacy, I do think a lot about, my family and my kids and things like that. Interestingly enough, at this point, none of my kids want to do any of the things that I've done, although they're entrepreneurs in business and things like that. Nobody wants to take over the family farm, Scott. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
do that, right? But I do a lot of work overseas, Bangladesh, other countries. I've been going to Kenya. This is the 11th year I've been going to Kenya. We've even had some support from the United Nations. We go over there once or twice a year. We do water tanks, and we do computer libraries, and we speak at schools and colleges. We do a lot of media. Last year's trip became a documentary that's been winning awards and film festivals. I guess when other people think of me and think of that, they probably think of that ripple effect. But again, whatever comes out of that or whatever happens with that, I don't want to be pessimistic, Scott, but I don't know how much longer the Earth has, man. Like I don't know how much longer we this might be a pile of dust here any day now.
This is, yep.
I won't go that far, but I'm not. My motivation comes more from me being able to go to bed, is to sleep every night knowing that I did the most with everything that I was given. If that lives on after me in some capacity, great. But I've also worked with some really amazing people, and I've seen them pass on, and I've seen how they've been celebrated in ways maybe they should or maybe they shouldn't have. And I've also seen some amazing people who passed on, and they weren't celebrated, and it's kind of sad in a sense. But I've learned not to make that something that I define myself by, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, David, I appreciate you coming on. This was one of those conversations that really shifts how people think about visibility, authority, and what it actually takes to stand out in today's world. So perfect. So
Yeah.
for everyone listening, again, being good isn't just enough anymore. The real question is are you building something people notice today or something they remember long after you're gone? So until next time, build intentionally. And again, David, thanks for being on.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Engineered. For more episodes and to connect with Scott and the team at Controllers Limited, visit controllersltd.com. You can also follow Scott on Instagram and LinkedIn and start building your legacy with confidence today.